This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of August 25th, 2024. Content authenticity statement: 80% of this week's newsletter is generated by me, the human. You're going to see lots of generative AI outputs in the opening section, plus an AI summary. What's on my mind this week? How to make generative AI sound more like you. This week, let's tackle one of the most common complaints about content generation using generative AI. It doesn't sound like me. Why doesn't AI sound like you, and what can you do about it? The TLDR, you've got to train AI with a series of steps, including analyzing your current writing style, providing it examples, building a scorecard, and then having AI write in your voice, score itself to see how well it did, and then ultimately revise and refine. So it is essentially making the AI do a good job as a ghostwriter. All right, ready to dig in? Part 1, how AI writes. Let's go back to the basics to remember how generative AI systems, language models in particular, like the ones that power ChatGPT and Claude, how these things work. These models are built using massive amounts of text data. As I mentioned in last week's newsletter, the average model is trained on 7 to 10 petabytes of data. That is a bookshelf of text-only books that stretches around the equator of the planet twice. That's how much text data these things need to learn how language works. When model makers make these things, every word is broken down into small word fragments called tokens, and then each token's position and frequency is measured against every other token: a word, phrase, sentence, paragraph, and document. It's a map of how that word relates to everything else in the document. What you end up with after this extremely time-intensive and very expensive process is a giant database of statistics. When we prompt AI to generate text with naive short prompts like, write me a blog post about B2B marketing, it naturally selects the highest probability tokens and assembles them into words. Here's an example from a LinkedIn post I wrote the other day. You can see that in this naive example, the prompt was, continue this LinkedIn post. And so the model, this was Mistral Nemo I was using for this model, was choosing the most likely word pieces to assemble based on what I'd already written. Here's the problem. By definition, the most probable words are also the most common. And the most common words are boring, right? Take some of the hallmark words of unguided AI-generated text like delve and absolutely and embark. Why are these so frequent in the text AI generates? Well, because they're frequent in the text that AI was trained on. Think about it for a moment. What is one of the largest sources of publicly available free text data? Marketing content, corporate content. We have been generating marketing content at a blistering pace for 25 years, ever since the dawn of SEO and search engines. Company websites are filthy with terms like embark and delve and other corporate mumbling, and all that has filtered into the content that AI generates. Here's an additional gotcha about this kind of language. Remember that AI generates content based on what it's already seen in any given conversation. If it can tell just from our prompts that, or maybe a couple of paragraphs of sample information, that we're working on marketing content or corporate content, the probabilities it chooses will be from marketing content that's already seen. So you get a tsunami of delves, right? Delve occurs in the style of text that we're writing. If you give generative AI a very different kind of starting document or prompt, it's going to come up with an avalanche of different high probability words. Give it some purple prose, right? And you'll see, again, a tsunami, an avalanche of words and phrases that commonly occur in things like fan fiction, one of the largest sources of text data from sites like Archive of Our Own for fiction writing. Here's an example. This is with a very, very short prompt. This is not a delve in sight. Is this good fiction writing? It's okay. But there's no delves, there's no embarks, there's no in a world of this, that. It's because that's not in this kind of document. The model is picking up and setting a very different set of patterns from the get-go. The model understands this isn't marketing content. Delve isn't going to show up in this because it's just not common in this document context. And that is a key point that we need to come back to. Language models choose words based on the content of the words they have already seen in the conversation so far. And what you've already prompted plus what it spit out, that governs the probabilities of the words it's going to spit out. If we want less boring writing, if we want writing that sounds more like us, we need to instruct the language model to generate less common words. So how do we do that? Part 2, writing style basics. What is writing style? How do we know what does and doesn't sound like us? This is a more complicated question than it seems at first because writing style isn't a thing. It doesn't actually exist. Writing style is an umbrella concept that rolls up dozens of sub-concepts. For example, diction, word choice, is a huge component of writing style and is one that sets us apart from other writers, right, including AI. Every individual person's diction is different because we've all been exposed to different languages, different words, different experiences in life. The words you remember when you're writing are tied to your emotional experiences in life. Even if they're broadly common words, the order in which you remember them and can re-invoke them when you're writing is unique to you. Don't believe me? Can you remember the words that someone you cared about said that made you fall in love or broke your heart? Probably. It's a relatively common shared experience among many people. You might even remember the tone of voice that they were said in. It could either like a really good memory or right? But that sequence of words is seared in your brain. I know I have one that I can remember, and I can remember the exact circumstances and the tone of voice and everything, right? And when you write, it's part of how your brain selects language. It's part of how your brain selects words. If you've ever tried your hand at writing fiction and really gotten into it, you've probably noticed that little bits of language that you've said or had said to you crept in. Diction is just one of more than 24 pieces of writing style, like pacing, tone, clarity, conciseness, sentence length, paragraph length, spacing, all things that identify you individually like a fingerprint. This is why it is so hard for the average user to prompt AI well to write like them. Right? If you can't articulate the fine details of your own writing style, there's no way you're going to be able to tell AI what to do. So what is your writing style? Part 3, prompting AI to write like you, step by step. Hope you got your mouse ready, or trackpad, I guess, or touchscreen. If we want AI to write like us, how do we do that? We have to create a writing environment that helps AI understand what it's supposed to be doing. To accomplish this, we need samples of our writing, and more is better. Ideally, we have samples of our writing in the context we want to use AI for. How we write emails is different than how we write a book, is different than how we write a LinkedIn post, is different than how we do a video like this, how we caption an image on Instagram. Right? Your writing style on an Instagram caption might just be the emoji with sunglasses. That might be your writing style. But you need a lot of examples for the AI to understand. More is better, a lot more. How much more are we talking about? AI is going to struggle capturing your style from just a handful of blog posts. In the same way that a ghostwriter, that if you hired a ghostwriter, they would struggle if you gave them like 2 blog posts. Like, yeah, they memorized my style. They'd be like, it's really not a good sense of your overall style from just 2 blog posts. If you had 20, that's better. A year's worth, even better. When I build prompts for writing style, a year's worth of content is good, 2 years is better. And we're talking about weekly data. That's the bare ingredients. It could be a book. A book could be great, 90,000 words, be a fantastic sample. Second, we need a language model that can hold that much information in memory. A year's worth of content might be a couple 100,000 words, depending on how prolific you are. A model like GPT-4 Omni, which is the model that powers ChatGPT, can only remember about 90,000 words, give or take. So if you got a couple 100,000, that model's just not going to do the trick. If you have much more, you need to move to a model that has a larger memory. The model that I use for this kind of work is one called Google Gemini, Gemini 1.5 Pro, which can remember about 1.5 million words, 2 copies of all of the plays of William Shakespeare. In a conversation, that is a tremendous amount of data. That's what we want. So use the model that best fits the amount of data you have to work with. Now, that's your ingredients. With an appropriate model and a corpus of our own data, we're ready to get started. And I'm going to bring up the screen share here so that you can follow along. We're going to follow the Trust to Insights pair AI framework for this process. And the first step is to prime the model. We ask the model what it knows about writing style components, because every model is different. Here's an example prompt, and I'm going to have you type this in. Feel free to pause the video. Today, we're going to analyze the writing style of an author. Your name here. What are the major components of a writing style, such as diction, intertextuality, etc., for an author in the genre that you write in? So for me, this would sound like, today we're going to write in the writing style of Christopher Penn. What are the major components of a writing style, such as diction, intertextuality, etc., for an author in the nonfiction business book genre? Right? So what we're doing is we're invoking the model's knowledge of its writing styles from a very specific technical perspective. This is one of the reasons why many prompts fail. You have to have at least a little bit of domain expertise to know how we'll want to augment it, right? To know generally the subject, right? If you don't know a thing about writing style, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to come up with the very specific, relevant, right words to get the model to behave. Next, we want to augment our existing first prompt with 2 more prompts. We'll ask it next, what are the common mistakes made when analyzing writing style components? And it's going to spit out a whole bunch of stuff. And this is a list of things that go wrong. This is called contrastive prompting. And contrastive prompting is a way for us to tell a model, don't give me just the common stuff. Start giving me more uncommon things that you wouldn't necessarily ask about, but are relevant to the conversation. Third prompt, what aspects of writing style components haven't we talked about yet? So you've got your best practices, which is the most common stuff. You've got uncommon stuff with the common mistakes. And then the third block says, okay, now we've taken into account all these other things. What haven't we talked about still? This prime, augment, and refresh is part of the pair model. And it convinces the model to go outside of the easy stuff and start bringing in more knowledge. Once the model has returned all the major knowledge it has about writing style, we ask it to outline all the best practices for analyzing writing style in an outline. So let's do that. Step 2. Now that we've got an outline of what writing style is, we need to analyze our writing. Here's the example prompt. Using the best practices for analyzing a writing style's components, as outlined above, analyze the writing style of your name here, based on these uploaded documents. Provide a detailed, comprehensive analysis in outline format. Then you upload the text files of your writing. Remember, more is better. In the example here, you see about 30 email newsletters, almost timely newsletters. It's about 150,000 words. Let the language model produce its detailed analysis of your writing based on the components that it's analyzed. And it does this thing. And now we've got some very nice details about our specific writing style broken out by component. This is critical. Remember that writing style is an umbrella term, so by getting far more granular and specific with each of the writing style components, we're going to be able to give the model better directions. We'll also want to have a page or two of our best stuff in a separate document, a piece of signature content. We'll come back to that in a while, but you need to have that signature content because it shows the frequency of writing style components, which is something that's almost never captured well in a prompt or an analysis of writing style. It's like saying the writing style analysis tells you what ingredients are on the pizza by name, like peppers and onions, but it doesn't tell you how much. Only by providing an example, the signature content, can a model see, oh, hey, you only use like one anchovy on the entire pizza, right? Whereas if you just said, hey, anchovies belong on this pizza, you might mistakenly put anchovies all over the pizza. Step 3, building a scorecard. As we covered on this past week's Trust Insights live stream, one of the best ways to force a model to do a better job is to force it to self-evaluate. The best way to do this is to have it build and analyze and score its own work. But to do that, we need to give it a framework. We need to give it a scorecard. The magic word here, and this is one of the few times where there is a magic word, the magic word here that invokes the right form of analysis from the model is rubric. A scoring rubric reliably helps any major foundation model understand what it is we're asking of it. What do we want it to do? So here's an example prompt. Using the analysis of your name here, writing style components, build a scoring rubric to assess how well a piece of content aligns to the writing style of your name here. The scoring rubric should use variable integers, 0 to 3, 0 to 5, 0 to 7, to score each writing style component, and the scoring rubric should total 100 points. The model should return a lengthy scorecard that we will use to evaluate whether a piece of writing aligns to our writing style or not. So we should now have 4 documents: a list of writing style best practices, an analysis of our individual writing style, component by component, a page of signature content, or maybe 2 pages, and a scorecard to measure content to see how well it aligns with our writing style. Step 4. Generate content. We're now ready to put these pieces into action. Let's give the model some instructions and a starting topic to build some content in our writing style. At this point here, this is where you could start a new chat, right? You've already got the materials. All the work we've done up to this point is preparatory work that you only have to do every so often. It's not something you have to do like every single time. You shouldn't do it every single time. You'll just drive yourself crazy. But you need to have saved the documents and generated in steps 1 through 3. So here's an example prompt. Note that we're still using the Trust Insights Race AI framework to guide the model. The prompt is, you're an expert in whatever the roles are. Your task is to action, some background information, context, first 3 steps of race. Using the writing style of your name here, as provided, write the blog post about the topic in the writing style of your name. Write 800 words, or however long you want it to be, in 3 sections: what the concept is, why the concept is important, and how to implement the concept. Use the writing style of your name here strictly. Reference your signature content to understand how the writing style should read. So what this is going to do is it's giving it the race framework, it's giving it guidance on the topic, and it's saying use this writing style. Now, I wrote a prompt for myself. This is fairly lengthy, so I'm going to read it quickly. You're an expert in marketing analytics and marketing attribution. You know Google Analytics 4, Google Tag Manager, data layers, attribution modeling, multi-touch attribution, uplift modeling, and marketing mix modeling. Your task is to write a blog post about the importance of uplift modeling to measure the effects of offline marketing activities. Background information. We're now in the context part. Uplift modeling is a useful way to determine the impact of activity outside of clickstream in digital analytics by declaring which time periods in a measurement set have the activity in question. Using techniques such as propensity score matching, where the control and test units are individual days, we can measure the impact of a tactic while discounting data that's business as usual. Using the writing style of Christopher Penn as provided. Write the blog post about uplift modeling in the writing style of Christopher Penn. Write 800 words in 3 sections: what the concept is, why the concept is important, and how to implement the concept. Use the writing style of Christopher Penn strictly. Reference the Christopher Penn signature content to understand how the writing should read. You'll add your signature content and the writing style analysis documents from steps 1 through 3 along with the prompt. What does the model produce? A really nice blog post. Right? That's a good first draft. I'd be pretty pleased with that. We're not done. We've only done the generation. We need to know, how did the model do? Step 5, score the content. Like an intern or a student, we need to give feedback to an AI model about how well it did on the task. Nice thing is we don't have to worry about hurting its feelings. The most precise way to do this is the same as we do with schoolwork. We give it a grade. The nice thing about AI that it isn't true of school children is that AI is capable of grading its own work. It's a huge time saver. So we'll use a prompt like this. Using your name here, writing style scoring rubric, Analyze and score the blog post that you wrote according to the rubric. Return your analysis and a score of your blog post. The model will return its outline of what it did well, what it did less well, and how it scored. When you look at this scored what? 80. That's not bad. Not bad. But we're not done. We have only scored the first draft. Step 6, refine the content. Now that we have a grade, we can give our AI model a chance to improve its grade, to improve its writing. So a sample prompt will go like this. Using the score and analysis of your blog post in your name here, writing style scoring rubric, create a refinement of the blog post that improves on the score. Let the model do its work to create a revision. Once it does so, ask it to score its revision with a prompt like this. Using your name here, writing style scoring rubric, analyze and score your revision. What you should get is a score that helps you to understand what the model changed and improved to achieve the higher score. Right? Here we have, in the example, it scored an 88. The final output is pretty good. It does sound like me. There's a few things I'd tweak, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. So that's the process, step by step, for you to follow to teach an AI how to sound more like you. Will it sound exactly like you? Of course not. But will it sound more like you? It will. Part 4, scaling your writing style. You will notice this process is incredibly thorough. It requires a lot of effort the first time around. Though you can see after step 4, it gets more efficient with each subsequent uses. However, there's still a lot of manual work. What if you wanted to do this at scale? Well, that's a topic for a different newsletter, but the short version is that tools like Google Gemini have APIs, application programming interfaces. The APIs can take things like prompts and documents and stuff and programmatically run and repeat the process from step 4 onwards as many times as you want, with the caveat that each time you use the API, it costs you money above and beyond what you already pay for the generative AI tools that you use today. But if you had a need to drastically scale you and your writing style, the process is something that can be automated and still do a very good job. While that might not be something that you would want to do with your personal writing, you could see how useful that would be for deploying with something like a corporate style guide. Suppose you've got a blog and you've had a series of bloggers over the years at your company, and all your content's kind of a wild mashup of styles with code like Python, an API, a credit card with a decently large limit, and the pieces that we've generated here in this walkthrough. You could have a language model rewrite every piece of content to conform to your current style guide. Shameless plug. If you want help doing that, that's something my company does. Make sure that credit card has a decently sized limit on it. Part 5. I'm impressed, Frank. You've made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. And I'm even more impressed that you tried each of the steps in the process and saw how they work. You did, right? Perhaps you even have the necessary pieces to do this on your own now, and if so, I'm glad it was helpful. The reason AI can't easily mimic writing style without the extensive set of processes we walk through today is because writing style is such a complex beast. There are tangible aspects an AI model needs to know to create. There are intangible aspects that a model needs to know to mimic. And like all writers, the first draft that an AI creates is rarely the best draft. When people do stuff with AI, they're like, oh, it didn't do a great job. Well, how's this the first draft? Force the model to do a second draft, right? Force it to self-evaluate and then improve and keep improving until you get a draft that you like. Again, is it an exact match of how you write? No, and it never will be. So much of your writing, so much of my writing, as we talked about with diction, is rooted in your emotional knowledge, your life experiences, something the machines don't have access to. But it will generate a piece that's pretty good, that requires much less revision. If you follow the process we outlined here, you'll get those good results. All right, what else happened this week? In this week, I did a 5-part series called Get Ready With Me for getting ready for the Generative AI webinar. This is not a, like, hey, watch me try and close. This is the steps that I take to prepare a webinar from scratch using an existing framework, but how I get smart on an industry quickly using generative AI. So watch all 5 parts. If people like it, if you like it and you want it as like one long piece of content, let me know. I'll be happy to release that. Also did a great live stream this week with Katie on using your ideal customer profile to align your services. And it was a lot of fun. We demonstrated how you could really change your service offerings to be aligned with what your customers care about. So go check that out. It's all on the Trust Insights live stream. It's also on my YouTube channel as well. Let's look at jobs for this week. We have AEC marketing strategist at Smartages, content project manager at iPull Rank, content writer at iPull Rank, copy supervisor at Relevate Health, demand generation manager at Munitrix, digital experience marketing manager at the Scott's Miracle-Gro Company, director of brand management at Kettle and Fire, director of insights and analytics at Precisely, editorial lead of events at Reagan Communications, marketing account manager at AdLeg, marketing coordinator at Clutch, marketing manager of digital at Light in the Attic Records, marketing technical writer at Yo, senior marketing analyst at Absorb Software, social media manager at Vessel Marketing, and senior manager performance content strategy at Creative People. So lots of cool hiring there. I am about to hit the road for a month solid of travel. So you're going to see more things, strange backgrounds and stuff like this, as I'm going to be all over the place. My next public appearance is going to be at the MACON conference, Marketing AI Conference, 2 weeks from today in Cleveland, Ohio. There's still time to get tickets, although they are more expensive now. If you go to macon.ai, then I'm at the Lab Products Association in Philadelphia, then Marketing Profs B2B Forum. I'm also at the Women in Construction Operations event in Alameda, and then in the spring, social media marketing world, and very likely a fair few more events because I've got a lot of stuff working on my calendar. So if you're going to be at any of those events, please do say hi. I'll be happy to chat. And if you'd like me at your event or your company meeting or your sales meeting or whatever, now is the time to ask because my calendar is getting really full really fast. That's going to do it for this week's newsletter. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, I appreciate your attention. I hope that you found value in it and look forward to hearing how you try this out. Talk to you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.